It's weird. People are less concerned about it in some ways than they were when we asked this questions a couple years ago, and it's a strange phenomenon. Like, there's been more stuff that's happened
to more people,
to more
businesses.
I think what we got from people was things like their email getting hacked and their credit cards getting hacked is an annoyance and it's a nuisance and they don't like it, but they're almost kind of getting a little used to it. It's less shocking now than it maybe was the first couple times it happened. I also think the Sony hack, which a lot of us obviously in business were very focused on and seemed particularly bad, I don't think that seemed to penetrate, you know, into people's consciousness as much as some of the other things.
So you did this study after the Sony attack, after the interview?
We did this a week ago.
So they're not big Seth Rogen fans?
I feel like people got to watch the interview if they wanted it, and so from the consumer's perspective, it was not a huge problem.
Now, in terms of, well, there's a lot of things to talk about here. 67% said the volume of cyber attacks is going to increase. So they see this as something that's going to be happening more.
Yeah.
But are they seeing it as something that has less impact, like it's credit card fraud or something?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we came back with. It was like email and credit cards, and it was sort of like an annoyance and a hassle. And I think unfortunately it's one of those things where probably something really, really bad has to happen in order for people to say, this is something we need to do more about. Now, that's obviously not what our politicians and our government should do. They should recognize that really bad things can happen from cyber terrorism, and I believe the president has proposed in his budget spending more money on cyber terrorism this year. And so, you know, I think that's the right kind of leadership position that, you know, we should be taking. We shouldn't wait for something really bad to happen in order for then us to do something about it. But it seems like people are kind of more passive about it.
Well, to that point, you found that 54% of the people you surveyed did not know the president mentioned cyber or anything or cybersecurity in his State of the Union address. And he mentioned it over and over and over and over again.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure. Some of the people didn't necessarily watch it. So that's if you didn't watch, I'm not sure in the coverage you saw. But I think people expect the government to solve big problems like this when they think it's the government's problem. And one of the things that also came through here is they actually think a lot of the problems are businesses. That the businesses should solve these problems for themselves. You know, and so the big hacks that we've had in the past year, the Target hack, the Home Depot, Chase, and Sony, they've all been really businesses, individual businesses that have caused a bunch of turmoil for consumers and getting your credit cards reissued. But, you know, it sort of seems like, well, if these businesses had done a better job. Now, I personally think that's a lack of understanding. I mean, everything can get hacked.
Right.
And so it's sort of, but I think the message around it over the last year was really like individual businesses needed to do more, and that's what we got.
Well, and it was fairly noticeable that in your study that you did the same study a couple of years ago, and that when there were a lot fewer attacks and when things like, you know, nuclear enrichment facilities in Iran were hacked, people were more worried than when 49% of the people you surveyed got hacked in some way.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't. Like I said, I think, you know, I just saw this movie Black Hat, which is a Michael Mann movie about cyber terrorism and hackers and those sort of things.
Any good?
It's okay. It's not.
I know you have high standards.
But there's some really bad stuff that the hackers do in that movie, including like basically destroy a nuclear power plant in China. Right? And when you see stuff like that happen because of cyber terrorism, that's the kind of thing that I think would generate a much more government must step in. We need to spend some money. We're really worried about it. So I don't really want that stuff to happen in order for people to care about it. But I do think we've gotten used to a certain level of hacking, and that's what the data shows.
And maybe the things that businesses have done to ameliorate the pain of a hack is actually having an effect where people don't feel that it could be that bad.
Yeah. I think also businesses are starting to recognize that they have to disclose these things as quickly as possible, that you can't sort of bury them under the rug, that there's prevention, but there's also like disclosure, and like I think the government is saying, hey, we need more disclosure.